Hello and welcome back to the continuation of The Sims for the run through of the whole thing, in a sense. Now, I may be putting this together very messily and it's probably not turning out the way I want it to, and it's very annoying and blah 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 blah. But our next introduction, our next family introduction, is the Fortunes. They came next. So what this was all about, if I get to the Fortunes, so it started with Arthur Fortune and Jennifer Fortune, and sadly another one passed away. Jennifer passed away, but Arthur eventually found love again with Ruby Rich. Well, Ruby Romance. She goes by Romance for some reason, but her real name is Ruby Rich. But the two of them eventually got married. But so the whole thing with this was I moved a family into the biggest house I could make. Well, the most full house. I put absolutely everything in the game I possibly, all the items at least at that point. Since then I have obviously obtained more items and blah blah blah, but their house currently sits with everything I had at that point in that house. But this family was also one of the most diverse families I had. We had a lesbian couple, a straight couple, a gay couple, and a son who eventually married one of the trusts. And we also had an old couple because we had Arthur Fortune and his new wife Ruby Rich. But it was nice to have such a diverse family and such a big whole house thing. And as it stands now, like Rosita and Samantha, the lesbian couple, they moved out. I think the gay couple, Alfonso and Edward, they still live there along with Felicity Fortune, and Felicity, Albert and Maxwell. So that's the current household standing, as it were. But I had thought of the lesbian couple getting children or having children, but that has yet not happened. So that may be a future thing that happens, but I don't really think I want any more children right now. But yes, this was a period where this bit here is just the grandpa and the grandson sitting together whilst things happen. And now we move on to our next introduction. So this was a Ruby's family that came here. They came shortly after the Fortune family. So I don't have a picture for this person, but she was married to somebody called Jackson Rich, and they had Bella Romance. But yeah, so they got married. Jackson, I don't know if Jackson actually passed away or if he just ran away. I don't know, but something happened with him. I think he just died. And then Ruby obviously also found love and married Arthur Fortune. But Ruby had one daughter, Bella Romance, who married Romeo Romance, and they have 4 children. So they have Ernie Romance, who is currently married to Eleanor Trust. They had Harold Romance, who is married to Freya Love. So we've introduced a few of these characters now that are getting connected. And then their first daughter, Harriet Romance, is married to Georgia Hart. And their last daughter, Judy Romance, is married to Mark Hart. Now, there is a bit of incestual weirdness about this, because this is your sister-in-law and you're married to your sister-in-law's sister. So it's a bit strange. You know what I mean? But that's just the way it went. And it's The Sims, so none of it is real. Sisters can marry cousins or something. It doesn't really matter. And they also had a dog. They had Sandy or something, but she was in heat and she wanted love, and Fela wouldn't give it to her. So pointless characters, really. There's not really much to say about the pets in this game. I just genuinely don't like them. But this was the introduction of the Romance family. So quite a nice family. And with the Romance family, the first one who started to fall in love was Judy Romance. She started to fall in love with Mark Hart. They went on a couple of dates, and I think they were the first to get married as well. She went round to the Hart's house, introduced herself, and the two of them started hitting it off, and they started falling in love. And then I think a few dates then went after that. Well, she obviously checked that Mark was single because, to begin with, Mark was actually in love with Rosie, and because I had added the two Sims up wrong together, thankfully that ended though, and Robbie and Rosie eventually found each other. I think, I'm not sure, it might have been Judy that actually proposed, not Mark, depending on who I went out with the date thing. Oh, and yes, another note to make, whilst they were on one of their dates, Mark's dad interrupted us. Wasn't that sweet? For our first kiss. That was very nice that he was there to witness that too. But they had a lovely time together, and yes, they became boyfriend and girlfriend also on that date that Isaac was there to witness. Ah, yes. It was Judy that proposed. So, Judy proposed in that relationship. And then we cut back to Judy at home with Harold. It's either Harold or Ernie. I think it's Harold. She put Harold to bed anyways. I can't be certain. No. Yeah, it was Harold. Harold's the youngest. So Harold was the youngest. Like I said, we've got Harold, the youngest, Ernie, the oldest boy, and Judy, the... It should be the other way around. It should be Harriet, Judy, Ernie, Harold. And then we got another new Kip family coming in. Well, not quite a new family, but if we go to... How am I going to... Right, we go to here, and we go to here. So this was the other kinds that came. Vincent recently lost his wife, Norma Luck, and he was having a horrible time, a very upsetting time. So he and his daughter Diana, who the two of them had together, they decided to move in with Vincent's brother, who is not on this list for some reason, Leonard, and his wife Jessica. And whilst they had moved in, both of the two of them found love. But yes, so Norma looked very odd to me anyways, so I'm kind of glad we didn't keep her. She looked very bizarre in a sense to me. And I like to think of Vincent as like this, not a homeless guy, but he's not particularly rich in a sense. Like he's struggled to get by, whilst his brother has lived off the fame of being a superstar as part of the Sunrays, whereas Vincent has struggled. I think he was an artist for a while. It's just some little twists and stories in there. But he's in a much better place now, obviously. And, like, it's funny to think, like... Well, it wasn't even him, so... He had never been introduced to Isaac's sisters, because he was never a part of the band, so he was never around for that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I got rid of Norma Luck. And then... the good thing started. So Diana started meeting Luke, and the two of them fell in love. And they eventually had Thomas and their other child, who I literally can't remember what his name is. But we'll get to that eventually again, I think. But yes, so they started hitting it off greatly. And they are the lineage family in a sense. They are the ones that are continuing the Trust household name. They are the ones that are going to, after Argo and Sarah, and after Luke and Diana's gone, their children are going to be the continuation of the Trust. I'm talking like, I might be making this series when I'm about 50 at this rate, but that's just the way it's going to be. Haha. But yeah, he started flirting a lot with her and having just a lovely time. Then, whilst she was falling in love with Luke, Zara decided, I'm tired of being lonely, I'm going to go out there and meet somebody. And that's when she met Vincent. And the two of them started hitting it off just like Diana and Luke. And although they were a bit older, well, Zara is the youngest sister of... I introduced this family around, I introduced the Cares, yeah. So we had Zara, we had Oliver, and we have Catherine, and we have Sophia. Yeah. So if we go back to her family, we've got Catherine and Oliver. We cut to her child, Sophia. We have Zara. They are all siblings of this, and this their parents, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so Zara met Vincent, and Diana's her stepdaughter, but together they had Willowkind that we'll eventually get to. But yes, I see Sophia, so their child Catherine and Oliver, I see Sophia Kerr as quite a good embodiment of like a cousin of Bethany and Georgia. Like you can totally see the similarity, I think. Around this time, like I hadn't set up her relationship. I actually had for a while perceived Alfie as being gay, but that just didn't happen. I've not got anyone in the Trust household as being bi, gay, or anything like that, or lesbian, but it's something that I could potentially do in the future with the younger generation. But there is obviously a lot of people around that are that way, so it's not like it isn't there at all. But yes, so around this time, I then decided Sophia was going to be with Alfie. So the two of them started hanging out, two of them started falling in love, started going a few dates here and there, here and there. And together they had one child, who I could potentially get more children, but again, it's just like, they had Lizzie. But this was their date, and I think Alfie proposed on this occasion. I don't know, did they go on multiple dates or was it just the one? I can't remember. I mean, I don't know why I'm asking you to like go and research or... Yeah, they went on multiple dates because they also had the rather naughty date at the pool where they decided to completely strip off in front of everybody, basically. Yeah, and Daniel and Argo were having a lovely time around this time, getting more father-son bonding going on, which is a shame because just now, currently, The Sims 4 is having a mega malfunction where it decides we're not working. And back to Rosie and Robbie. So back with Rosie and Robbie, they went on another date, and this is where Robbie decided to propose. I think, maybe not actually. No, this was the smelly date. This was when Rosie hadn't bathed in like a week. But they got some nice pictures in. So I think, like I said, these were the most dated Sims. So I had Robbie and I had Rosie go on one more date after this, and I think that's when Robbie and Rosie decided to propose, and they were the first Trust hearts to get married. Well, apart from Bethany. Bethany was the first heart to get married, but Rosie was the first Trust to get married. And actually also around this time, Isaac got reunited with his sisters and his brother-in-law, and decided to get some nice pictures taken by Oliver, which were terrible. But we're going to take a wee break from the Trust and all that and go to another playthrough that I did, but I eventually combined this playthrough. So this is going to be like my favourite thing to talk about. So going way back to the start, go back to here. Francis Trust used to be married to a man called James Manhattan. So they got divorced. They've all died now, but James and Francis had Benjamin Manhattan. So I've had two playthroughs of The Sims before. I've had like my fun playthrough where I could do whatever I want, and I had my legitimate playthrough, which was like me getting all the trophies. And when I made Benjamin at first, I had no intention of making other stories with him. I had no, he was just a guy I made, but I kind of made the same face as Argo, and I was like, you know what, they could be brothers, and I'm totally happy with that outcome. They look like brothers. So then I've also made this whole storyline up as well, but this guy I classed as like a player. Like, the whole premise of what he was a trophy hunter for me, in a sense. He was married to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different women. Obviously he waited till one had died until he married another one, if that makes sense. But yes, so his first wife, Maria, we didn't really do anything with Maria. Like, she was just there to be married, and then she was gone. But whilst Maria was on her deathbed, he started to have the love for Cassidy, and they started to grow a relationship. Yeah, and I edited the drama there. It was pretty funny. But yeah, and then Maria passed away, and that was like for Benjamin. Right, let's get marrying Cassidy. It's Cassidy's time now. So if we add Cassidy's children. Oh, it was Cassidy that proposed to Benjamin, not the other way around. I'm just trying to find Cassidy's children. There's so many children. So Cassidy and Benjamin got married. Like, she was in red as well. Like, it's truly like she's the devil. Like, and then eventually they had their child. Well, I say child. It was children. They had two, which was a nice surprise. But I was actually trying for triplets around this time, so to get two was kind of annoying. But they had Millie and they had Molly. Millie was their first, and then they had Molly. I think that's right, or was it Molly that was first and then it was Millie? No, yeah, it was Molly first, then it was Millie. Molly's the older one. So they are together in their lovely red dresses like their mum. I did quite like these ones, and I had sort of an idea of having Molly be in a relationship with someone in my playthrough, but I still haven't gone down that road yet. And around this time, Cassidy had fallen dreadfully ill, and like Maria, she was passing away too. But luckily for Benjamin, luckily for Benjamin, he started to fall in love with Dina. Dina was his next wife. It does sound horrible like this, but the wives are dying / dead. They're gone, and then it moves on to the next person. So Dina was his next wife. They started heading off, having a great time, whilst Cassidy was dying away. And Cassidy took them a while to get married, but they had their first kiss, yes. And Benjamin did the proposal this time. I think Dina was kind of friendlier than Cassidy, to be honest. But I liked Cassidy. Like, Cassidy was this cool, red-looking creature. They got married, Dina and Benjamin. All the other wives of the future, we just had to gather around and keep watching, like, when is it going to be my turn? So, yeah, they got married. Benjamin is exchanging his vows with Dina. And then, Dina had her child. And it looked like she had potential to have twins or triplets, but no. This was like, I always thought this was their first child. Like, I thought this was the one that was born first, but this was Benny. Well, he was originally named Benny, but I eventually changed his name to Benjamin Jr. Ben Jr. But it was Benjamin Jr. Manhattan. And then, guess what? Dina died too. Dina had a horrible disease that died too. It might have been something to do with the lot. So then around this time, Benjamin started to have feelings for the next wife. Rosa? Or is it Jane? Which one came next? It was Jane next. Jane was the next wife. The lady in white. So that's the way to remember them. We had the red wife, we've had the blue wife, now we're on the white wife. Well, we also had the red wife beforehand, but... So Benjamin started falling in love, they had their first kiss, blah blah blah. Then they got married, blah blah blah, in a red dress, to show just how evil she was. They got married, they had nice photos. And then Jane had her child. Again, like there was potential to have more than one, but no. That's it. Yes, Charlie was her child. Charlie was the next one, and he was quite a nice one. And guess what? Jane died. Jane passed away as well. So guess what? Benjamin moved on to his next wife, Rosa Cairn. Yeah, they are the Cairn family. So Rosa was his next wife. And he started having a nice relationship with her too. First kiss, comforting, marriage. He proposed, blah blah blah. Yep. So they then got married. This was like a week after the other one died or something. It's just... I don't promote this in real life, like this, unless like it's like a couple of years apart. Like you've had all these wives and they die, like, but then again they're all sisters. That I did find a story that was quite similar to this in real life, but not really. I wish I could have found it, but at the same time, no. So then Rosa and Benjamin had their next child. Well, Benjamin had his next child. Rosa had her first. And this was Mary. Mary, who I feel like is one of the more forgotten about children. I mean, the rest after Mary are way more forgotten than Mary. And guess what? Rosa died. Now this is where things started to get really, really crazy. So Rosa, I think, yeah, Rosa was the last wife, like the last non amazing wife. Like this is Benjamin's forever wife. The rest came and died instantly, whereas Rebecca is still with Benjamin. You know what I mean? So, how do I start this? How many children did they have together? If we go, their first child was Gina, and they had twins first. Gina and Nicholas was their first one. Yep, Gina and Nicholas were their first children. So that was 2. They had twins. Yippee. So they all got done up. They aged up, and Gina looked rather bizarre, but I kind of more made her look a bit more like Molly or Millie, whichever one. Oh, and then we moved on to our next child. Our next child. Well, oh no, wait, we're still waiting for Nicholas. No, we're not. We're on to our next child. So another set of twins, Callum and George, who I quite like. Like I quite liked how I styled them, and they look like twins. Like they look great. But this was a trying period. I was trying so hard to get the triple play trophy or whatever it was. Yep. So with that, the 2 of them moved on. They moved up and they got aged up, and I think after them as well is when I started to stop trying. Like I stopped trying to make the guys look nice. Like I just gave up, and I was like, oh fine, they can look like whatever they want. They were the last ones I actually tried with. I think so, at least. Right, next, Rebecca got pregnant again, and they had twins. I think it was another set of twins, or was it? It was Jordan. Yep, it was Jordan and Maxine. Unbelievable. So, this was their second? Yeah, at this point, Benjamin had aged up horribly. This was like their last few tries. So we had Jordan and Maxine. So that was 1, 2, 3 sets of twins. And then with Rebecca, again, this was the last try, and on the last try, after all that exertion, Benjamin sadly passed away. Benjamin Senior sadly passed away, but his last fight didn't help us to get triplets. Amazingly enough, he had another set of twins. But yes, Benjamin passed away at this point. So, like I said, the storyline is a bit off here. This is a different playthrough. So Benjamin in the Trust playthrough is still alive, but this Benjamin is gone and dead, although he got resurrected as a ghost and he got re-added to the family, so in some sense the original Benjamin still exists. He was alive, he was dead to see his, or he was in some form at least to see the birth of his new son. He remarried Rebecca once he had passed away. So he really did love Rebecca because he decided to marry her twice. He didn't marry any of his dead wives, but once he died, and there he was there for the pregnancy. So Argo's last children were Brendan and Thomas. That was not the end of the Manhattan lineage, though. That was just the end of Benjamin Senior's lineage, in a sense. So after trying for triplets 5 times, 6 times, he ended up with 4 sets of twins. But around this time, we move back to Ben Jr. So Ben Jr. met Kimberly Starr, and the two of them hit it off, and they got married. And with that, Benjamin took on the reins of the father maker, in a sense. With hope of getting a triplets, he tried with his new wife Kimberly, and the first ones that they had were twins. They had Julie Manhattan, who looks crazy, as does her sister Terry Manhattan. Two of them just crazy looking. So time-wise, I think my times are quite, date-wise, is actually quite good. So I'm saying it's like 1999 right now. So, but that may very well be off. But they were born in about 1999 or something. Then they moved on to the next try for triplets, and again, they had a set of twins. They had Edward Manhattan and Martin Manhattan. Martin was actually the first one, not Edward, but it's the way of it. Hooray. And with that, they aged up. Again, like I told you, around this time I'd stopped trying. Yep. So our next try at triplets, oh, what a surprise. It was another set of twins. We had Derek Manhattan, and we had Joanna Manhattan. So Derek Manhattan and Joanna. And Joanna was punky, cool, whatever else. And about this time, Rebecca was pregnant again. Could this be for the last time? Well, I mean, if I really wanted to, I could go back to my old playthrough and have them have children again. But anyways, they had their first child, Dennis Manhattan, I think. Dennis. Hello, Dennis. Dennis. No, Sean. Sean was their first one. Even though I've put him right at the end, Sean was their first one. Then it was Dennis. And then finally, Ryan Manhattan. We finally got the triple play trophy. It took forever. Like, how many children did there end up being? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 children and trying to get triplets. Obviously that was 2 tests.